Hello everyone and welcome to an episode of Boom Rookies presented by ESPN, coming at you live from the Temple of Boom. My name is Matt Bungard and with me today, Nick Campton. Hello.
Hey man, what's going on?
Not much, mate. We're back in the studio. Feels good. Had some trials and tribulations in the last couple of weeks, but we're back better than ever. Doing better than the Queensland team, I would say.
Well, not only are we back in the Temple of Boom, we're also rolling out some new merch today.
Yes,
How very exciting.
Yeah, people have been bugging us for months about hats and other stuff, but hats was the main thing, and more specifically, corduroy hats.
Cord hats.
As you can see on Campo's head, we've got those, and we've also got the bucket hats. They're all fully embroidered, really good quality. They'll be available for sale later this week. We are launching a website, which will just be a hub for like stuff we're selling. It'll have an RSS feed for any stories that Campo or I write. Any other podcast-related stuff will go on there as well. So stay tuned. We'll be launching that in the next couple of days. So that's exciting. But yeah, hats. There aren't that many, but they will be on sale this week. So stay tuned. They will sell out. So
if you want your friends and family to know that you listen to a mid-tier rugby league podcast hosted by an idiot and a drunk, which one's which, I'll never tell. Now you have that chance. How exciting for you.
That is very exciting. Yeah. So yeah, that's the cord hat. Looks great. Bucket hat. I mean, I had one already, but that one was printed. This one's embroidered, so a little bit better quality. So yeah, stay tuned.
Happy out.
Yeah, indeed. We'll be selling the Temple of Boom posters as well, and then we'll have some other stuff to come later. Maybe we'll sell some mugs as well, hopefully. But that happens. Exciting though.
Mate, merchandise magnates, I'm telling you.
Damn right.
Time to franchise this thing.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's start with the State of Origin teams for the decider. And the Queensland team is by far the more intriguing, which is shocking to me, really. Usually they're the sensible, competent ones, and we're looking at them and going, why can't we just pick the best players and the team that makes the most sense? But instead, we're left with a Queensland team that's been quite baffling to everyone. I'll run through it really quick. It's Reece Walsh at fullback, Selwyn Cobbo on the wing, Dane Gagai recalled in the centres, Hamaso, Tabuai Fido the other centre, Val Holmes the other winger, Tom Dearden and Daly Cherry-Evans in the halves, Ruben Cotter, Lindsay Collins, Ben Hunt making up the front row, Kurt Capewell and Jeremiah Nano on the edges, Pat Carrigan at lock, and Harry Grant, Mo Fotuaika, Felice Kafusi and Kalen Ponga on the bench. The extended bench consisting of Trent Loiero, Brendan Piakura and Reid Marnie. Campo, what initially jumps off the page at you there?
Well, it's got to be the back rowers, doesn't it?
Yes.
Billy Slater has again decided not to select David Fifita, and he's also dropped Jaden Sewer. So you could make the case, well, I would make the case, the Queensland have declined to select their two best edge forwards, and they've gone with Jeremiah Nane, who's had a poor season and a poor series, and Kurt Capewell, who I was surprised he got the gig for game 2. He's struggling to get minutes for the Warriors, and now against a New South Wales pack that totally steamrolled them in game 2, they're going to be relying on him pretty heavily. This Fifita stuff has always been pretty baffling to me. I've never quite understood it, but in making this decision, Slater has now pretty much guaranteed that his views on Fifita are going to be the defining thing to come out of this series. But if Queensland lose game 3, which based on the teams selected, they're a very good chance of doing, this will be the thing that hangs over his head. And this will always be the series where he could have selected David Fifita, probably the best back rower in the world, and just declined to do so for reasons that still aren't that clear, or that he's not really articulated that well, you know? So I can't get my head around this one. I'm pretty baffled.
No, and there was some leaked team rumours on Sunday afternoon where Fifita was in the team, and we were all sort of pleasantly surprised by that, only for a couple of hours later the actual more sort of concrete leaks came out, and then he was back on the sidelines again, and we were all just so confused. And it's not just that he's not playing, it's the replacements. Again, Kurt Capewell's been a great player for a lot of years, but you're right, he's really struggling to get minutes in a not great Warriors team. And we're at a point now in his career where I think like no one would argue that he's a better footballer than Dave Fifita. And I don't think anyone would argue that he's more equipped to stand up to the rigours and everything that New South Wales are going to throw at them than Dave Fifita. The Titans have turned the corner a little bit, but they still look pretty bad whenever Fifita's not on the field. He, to me, is probably the number one player, and it's certainly definitely the number one non-spine player in terms of when he's not in the field, his team feels his absence more than any other. He's just such a transformative player. I agree with you. I think he's the best back rower in the world right now. And I have no idea. I have no idea what he's done to deserve this treatment where he's being frozen out by Queensland. But this is the reality we live in now. We were confused that he wasn't in the team for game 1, but you could kind of justify it a little bit. But then as the injuries piled up and the other guys were made unavailable for games 2, and now especially for game 3, given what happened in game 2, it just seems so odd.
Well, like, if you think about what happened in game 2, they got out-muscled, right? And it wasn't just in the middle of the field, it was down the edges as well. You know, the Blues really dominated that area of the game through Angus Crichton and Liam Martin. So you would think that you would want to have someone out there who you can at least match that athleticism with, you know? So you would think Fafita would be the perfect candidate for that. It's flying under the radar a little bit, but I think dropping Jaden Sewer is also really strange. I don't think he's had a great series, but he's had a really good season. You know, and again, you would think because he can be such a strong defensive presence, you would think that's what the Queenslanders would be looking for. But instead, they're going with, you know, Nane, who again has not really hit the heights that he's capable of this year. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. And Capewell, who in game 2, I thought he struggled with the pace of the game in the small time that he was out there. So now they're relying on him even more. It's difficult for me to see the logic behind this one. Sometimes, even if you don't agree with a selection, you can see the logic behind it. And I can see that with some of the other changes Queensland have made, right? Like, I wouldn't have kept Valentine Holmes in the team, but with Murray Taulanga getting injured, I get why they've done that. But this back row stuff is just, I don't get it. I don't understand it. And given how much sort of the structural integrity of edges have started to really define big games and origin games, I just really think Queensland are making it so hard for themselves here.
Yeah, completely agree. I just don't understand it. I don't think anyone does. And even the most ardent critics of David Fafita, I think, must be just confused at this point as to what's happened.
Are there any critics left other than Billy Slater?
Well,
really?
I mean, he's the $1 million man, so there'll always be critics.
True enough.
So, but yeah, I just don't get it. Maybe this was all a big ruse to turn David Fafita into a sympathetic character for his redemption.
Face turn.
2025. I don't know.
Ooh, I like it.
I don't know. But yeah, other changes. Great to see Dan Gagai back in.
Yes, thoroughly earned it too. I think he's been playing really good footy for the Knights. It was really good for them in that win against Canberra. So I like that he's in there. I like that Selwyn Cobbo's there. Like I said, Val Holmes probably a little bit lucky to hold his spot, but they are just running short of guys at the minute. And I don't mind Kalen Ponga on the bench either. I think if no one gets injured, I'd expect him to come on and play in the middle of the field, which he's done in Origin before. If you guys remember back in his debut in 2018, when he very much got kind of rushed in for game 2 for a Queensland team that was a bit desperate. And he ended up putting in a really good shift in the middle of the field. So to that end, I could see Queensland bringing him on in the middle and having Ben Hunt out there as a middle and just trying to play as fast and as wide as possible and sort of take the size out of the game. I would imagine that's what they're going to try and do. But that won't be easy against a Blues side that just seems very settled and very sure of how they want to do. And a team that is almost shockingly competent. You know, it's just like,
I mean, they've really freaky Friday this one.
Yeah,
team selection.
big time.
But before we move on to the Blues, like with the makeup of the Queensland bench and just the one middle forward on it, does that to you suggest that we're going to get big minutes from guys like Ruben Cotter and Pat Carrigan?
I would think so, but I also think that they'll use Ben Hunt as a middle and they'll use Kalen Ponga as a middle. So I think that's kind of how we have to look at it.
Yep.
But in terms of the blokes who do have a bit of meat about them, you know, it's going to be Carrigan and Cotter, and they're going to lean on them incredibly heavily, especially Carrigan, I would think, because Cotter hasn't had a great series or a great season either. Wouldn't say he's in the best nick at the minute. So it's really, a lot of it's going to be on Carrigan. And I don't think it's likely. I would still like to see them swap Collins and Fotuaika. I think Collins has always done his best work in Origin off the bench. I don't think he suits starting in that arena as well as he does coming off the pine, but seems unlikely.
Yep. Okay, and the Blues, just the 2 changes, one forced, one sort of more of a personnel decision, but they've gone with Bradman Best in the centres, replacing Latrell Mitchell, and Mitchell Barnett on the bench, replacing Homole Olakau'atu. Everyone else is the same. You all know the team by now. I thought the best thing was a no-brainer. I got asked on the radio on Saturday, who would you bring in? Would you bring in Turbo? Would you bring in Burton? Would you bring in Best? And I said, I don't even think there's much of a discussion. I think Bradman Best is the clear choice. A left centre who's playing fantastic rugby league at the moment. He's been incredible for the Knights since he came back into that team in the past few weeks. Really sort of willing them to victories. Like a large part of why they've been so successful in the last couple of weeks is because of him. And he was great in Origin last year. We both backed him to do well in that arena, and he was really good when he came into the Blues setup. And he's just a guy with his physicality and his directness who I think just suits this arena perfectly. To me, sometimes the most obvious answer is the correct one. And in this case, Maguire didn't get cute. He didn't go with Tom Turbo. He didn't go with Birdo. He went with Bradman Best, who I thought was just the slam dunk here.
Yeah. Like this was a bit of an easy one. I think Best would have been there for game 1 if he wasn't injured. He's in great form at the minute. Talked about Game 3 last year, how effective he was on debut. I agree with you. I think his style of play really does suit Origin footy. And while losing Latrell Mitchell is a big blow, like Bradman Best is as good a replacement as you could ask for, you know. And while I think maybe Matt Burton can feel a little bit aggrieved because he is playing great footy, there's just not a spot for him in this team as currently constructed, you know. So,
and the other one is really interesting to me because I'm a big Homoli Olakuatu fan. I think he's been one of the better back rowers in the competition for the last 2 years. But the role that is defined for him in Origin, I do think Mitch Barnett's better suited for it. And I'm reasonably surprised that Michael Maguire's made this change because of the rhetoric that you don't change a winning team and all that. But I don't think this bench role suits Olakuatu's skill set the way it does Mitch Barnett's.
I think what happened was the intention with Olakuatu was to bring him on at some point on the right edge and push Liam Martin to the middle of the field. And that sort of got obscured a little bit in Game 1 because Suoliti got sent off and everything had to change because of that. And then Martin did very, very well with those extra minutes. And I think he's become a real sort of emotional barometer for the rest of the team. So as it stands, I think it's more useful to have someone like Barnett who is more adept at switching between the middle and the edge than Olakuatu is. So I think they picked Olakuatu with an initial plan in mind. Things kind of changed a little bit. So then they've gone with Barnett, who, again, if no one gets injured, his place in this team is a lot more clear because he is much more capable of switching between middle and edge. He's been doing it all year for the Warriors, and he's had a terrific season. I think he's been the Warriors' best player. He was excellent again against the Bulldogs on Saturday. So I like this because it shows a little bit of they've kind of just adapted to what's in front of them, you know. And I could see Barnett, even if he just got 10 or 15 minutes, he could have a couple of big carries, maybe an offload or two, mix it up a little bit, and then come off and then the starters come back on again, you know. But then if someone goes down, I would also trust Barnett to play big minutes in either position. So it's kind of just how the team's evolved a little bit. I don't think Olakuatu did much wrong, but just didn't get much time out there, you know.
Yeah, no.
So them's the breaks.
And you know, this is a guy that plays bulk minutes for Manly every week. That's his bread and butter. And I just think, I agree with you, mate. I just think that Best is better suited to playing either position. I think no-brainer selections for the Blues. It's telling that really I haven't seen anyone that's been upset with the team selection.
Yeah, this is the happiest I've been with the Blues team in a long time.
Which is crazy.
The only change I would make, I'd still have Coruscant over Robson, but that's...
But Robson played really well in games.
He did, and that's just a stylistic preference at this point,
fair.
you know.
But I think with the way Maguire wants to play, I think Robson complements what they're doing pretty well. I agree, Coruscant's still the best number 9 in the game for me, but hey, if you can leave out the best hooker in the world and still win the series, then good luck to you. Good luck to you. But have a full preview of Origin 3 next week. But before that, we've got to talk about the games that have just taken place over the weekend, starting in Coffs Harbour on Friday night. Cronulla 16, Gold Coast 20.
What's doing?
Is it officially time to diagnose them with 2023 Rabbitohs?
I think so.
Oh dear.
I think
we
so.
We thought they beat it when they beat the Broncos, who might also have 2023 Rabbitohs themselves.
Well, maybe it's infectious.
Maybe they caught it from the Broncos.
Maybe the Sharks didn't wear their mask.
The Sharks thought they were out, and then on the way out of the hospital, they had a conversation with someone and got reinfected. Jeez, tough times.
What's doing, man? What's doing with your Sharks?
So, the first 20 minutes of this game, I think they had 14% possession or something crazy like that.
They didn't touch the ball for the first 10 minutes.
Insane.
Yeah.
And Kieran Foran, I thought, had a blinding start to this game. He was fantastic, really turning back the clock. But the Sharks got into the game more and more as it went on, and I thought that they had enough chances to maybe even win this game late doors, but they just didn't show enough for the first 60 or so minutes of this game to impress me. I think that sometimes we can sort of make some mistakes about under-analysing stuff and just go, this guy's not doing this, or he's not doing this, blah, blah, blah. But I think Nico Hines might genuinely just have the yips right now. I think he just might genuinely just have some mental stuff going on the field because of everything that's happened, the Origin sort of mishaps compounded by that missed conversion, compounded by that missed field goal against the Bulldogs, and it just seems like he really is in his own head a little bit right now. It wasn't just the sort of that kick on the last play of the game was baffling. That was just a complete nothing option with the siren gone and the game on the line. He had that play, I think midway through the second half, where there was that loose ball where he ran onto it, and if he'd scooped it up, he either would have gone 80 metres himself or passed it to somebody else, but he just scooped it up and then dropped it immediately. He's just doing little things at the moment that are very un-Nico-ish. And he did have that great pass as well for the Atkinson try, but yeah, by and large, he's I think there's just something going on there at the moment.
He's in quicksand, isn't he?
And I just
feels like every mistake is getting compounded by the next mistake, and digging your way out of that can be really, really hard. And it's hard I think it's especially hard for Hines to do it because the way he plays is so dominant on the ball.
Yeah.
He touches the ball more than any other non-hooker in the competition, right? So it's not easy for him, and the way the Sharks play, for him to take a little bit of a back seat and kind of focus on the fundamentals and let some other guys take that attacking load. I don't think he's adaptable in that sense. And now the Sharks they really do look stuck on the downward spiral. Like I've been saying for a couple of weeks, they look like they're on tilt, and it's getting really bad. It's getting really bad. They're now only one win ahead of that chasing pack. They're one win ahead of the Cowboys and the Bulldogs, who are both sort of, I think the Sharks got 10, the Cowboys and the Dogs have got 9, and things could still get worse for the Sharks before they get better. Because I'm not really sure how you go about fixing this without having a really big fundamental shift in your structures. Like I think it's pretty clear that Hines needs to sort some stuff out, but he can't sort of take that backward or take that back seat. He can't sort of hand over the keys. That's not really how he does it or how the Sharks do it. And the other troubling thing is a lot of these bad things that are happening are kind of the same things every week. Like it's slow starts nearly every week. Yep. Like you can say that Foran was playing great footy. I thought he was all right. But Kieran Foran should not be pushing through 3 defenders close to the line.
Probably
not in the year of our Lord 2024. Like maybe 10 years ago, but not now. Not like this. And after the Titans got that good start, I thought they were sort of only okay for the last 60. They kind of just hung around. But that proved to be enough.
Yeah.
And then the other try they do get to Palacia, again, it's a pretty soft one. The Titans have got some really classy attacking players, but it wasn't classy attack that got it done.
No.
They just kind of attacked the Sharks' weaknesses a couple of times and just hung on grimly and ended up getting there.
Those 2 amazing cover tackles at the end by first Beau Fermor and then Jojo Fafita as well, which were just
some beauties,
awesome defensive efforts. But again, you talked about how happy you were that Tom Hazelton was going to start again and how they've been better when he starts games, and then they changed it again.
Yeah, don't know what they're looking for there.
And then the start was awful. So.
That's the thing. They keep missing the jump, and then they're always trying to dig their way out of the hole, right? And for a team low on confidence, that's a really difficult thing to do. So they need to change something. They need an injection of energy at the start of games. I think Hazelton can do that for them, but it just doesn't seem to be something they want to do. So I don't know. If I was a Sharks fan, I would be panicking deluxe. Not to the like. I don't think it'll be as bad as South last year.
No,
I don't think
it's hard to be that bad.
I don't think they'll fall out of the finals. But the fact that it looked like they had turned a corner, and now they're kind of back where they've always been, with a lot to prove seemingly every time they play a game. And even if they do make the finals, unless there's a rapid and dramatic turnaround, it's difficult to go into those big games and have any faith in them again.
Yeah, that's true.
Even accounting for some of the good wins they had earlier this season.
You can get into the finals with not great form, but there's a difference between that and literally limping in on half a season of not convincing play. And that's where they're at. Dave Fafita's going to brain the Eels this week. Goodness me.
I want to wrap Keanu Kinney. I thought he was
awesome.
excellent again. I thought it was a big I know Brimson didn't end up playing, but I thought it was a big show of confidence in Kinney that Brimson was coming back in at 5'8". I don't know what they're going to do there with Kinney and Campbell and Brimson. It feels like there's only room in the team for 2. But you can't move Kinney at the minute. He's just playing great footy, super, super busy. Like, he's not a big dude, but he's getting through 25 runs and 200 metres nearly every week, really getting the sets off to a great start. I'm a huge, huge fan.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah, that they started great and just gutted it out, which is not something we associate with. They won this game, as I said, with a couple of really great defensive players like Dawes, which is just not something we've ever really associated with.
Yeah, it took a while, but it looks like Des is starting to have that magic touch on him a little bit, And
as I said, like, they get the Eels without Moses this week, so they might be building something in the second half of this season. So, team to keep an eye on, maybe. Who knows? All right. Brisbane 6, Penrith 14. The grand final rematch. I mean, I wouldn't say it never really got going, because Penrith threw a lot at Brisbane in this first half and just couldn't break them down. I thought Brisbane's defensive efforts were really, really impressive in that first half, especially. But save for that one moment of Reece Walsh brilliance, it
was pretty brilliant, though.
It's
unbelievable. Oh my God.
But save for that, I mean, their attack is just not there at the moment.
Well, that's the thing. This game kind of was played this game was played Panther style. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was really, really tight. The rain was absolutely bucketing down, turned into a real slog in the middle of the field. And games like that are always going to favour Penrith, almost regardless of who's out there. Like, that's the sort of footy that they just absolutely love. And there was still some great attack. Like, the Welsh try was incredible. The To'o try was also just absolutely fabulous. Like, it's not just the kick from Lindsay Smith, it's the take and the pass
from Martin is
from
ridiculous.
Liam Martin in those conditions as well.
That's like the old, was it Steve Gearin, that try that gets replayed a million times? That was reminiscent of that. I know the ball is obviously a lot easier to catch now than the leather thing they used in the 80s, but it was still pouring rain. And he's a back rower. And people were bagging the Broncos for like, oh, why are you not contesting that kick? It's like, well, they're 30 metres out.
Yeah, it's a low percentage. The
issue isn't that they didn't contest the kick. The issue is that they didn't have any contingencies in place to cover the space if Penrith did catch.
The issue is they didn't account for Lindsay Smith's kicking game.
Well, that's true.
You know,
world-class half, Lindsay Smith.
The super boot himself.
Some are saying.
More everywhere I go. Yeah. Everyone I speak to.
Yeah, this was sort of a very attritional one from Penrith. Mitch Kenny gets his customary try against the Broncos.
Oh, God, you'd be so filthy, wouldn't you? I think he's only got 3 tries in close to 100 games. 2 against Brisbane, 1 was in the grand final.
Yeah. This one wasn't as funny as the one in the grand final.
Not quite. But that try kind of showed the difference between the two teams. Like, I know it's Mitch Kenny just going over from 10 metres untouched, but for 10 minutes, Penrith were building up to that because they were just slowly turning the screws, winning the forward battle, making Brisbane kick from uncomfortable positions. And by that time, Madden had gone down as well. And Ezra Mam, who is another guy that just looks to really be on tilt right now, he wasn't taking an active role in the attack the way that he sort of did earlier in the season. So it was a lot of it was left to Walsh, and for all of Walsh's good qualities, he can have a mistake in him, and he puts that kick out on the full, and that totally. And I think he was kicking from his own 40 even, so he's already kicking from a tough position, and then Penrith had sort of just been waiting for that chance, and then they were able to strike. You know, and it was the sort of try where it looks really simple, but there was 10 minutes of work that went into it beforehand. You know, and the Panthers just sort of got into that grind, got into that contest, and I don't think there's ever been a team better at it.
No.
Than Penrith. Like, of all the great sides, the great Rooster sides, the great Storm sides, I've never seen a team better at sort of winning, like in that attritional part of the game, like slowly winning a lot of little battles to end up winning the war.
They've won this exact game 50 times.
So many
over
times.
The past 4 seasons. Like, really. Luai was great again. I do love that he had that awesome 40-20 and then maybe the worst kick I've ever seen. But that was really he had one, I think, was he the one that didn't find touch with that kick for touch as well? But other than that, he was again
apart from not finding touch, I thought his long kicking game was really good. And that's not always something he's
really
been
come
great
into
at.
his own since Cleary went down.
Very much so.
Every passing week, Tigers fans should be more excited about what they're getting. Which, you know, there was a period at the start of the season when that signing happened where people were talking about how Penrith only won the grand final because he got hurt and Jock Madden came in.
You were saying
Jack Cogger came in and
you say people. You were saying
I wasn't saying that specifically, but the way he's turned this around and become the dominant playmaker on this team for the past couple of months has been remarkable. It's been incredibly impressive.
What I really like about it is he's doing it, but he's still playing to his own strengths as a player. He's not trying to go out there and be Nathan Cleary. He's using the gifts that he has to do this job in a slightly different way. You know, and he still has all those intangibles about him. He still has that confidence, that swagger, that sort of inspirational thing that makes him charismatic and makes his teammates want to follow him. But he's not trying to be something he isn't. You know, he's just adapting what he has to play this new position. So yeah, I've been very, very impressed with him, and I even think his temperament has changed a little bit. Like, he hasn't been sort of getting as involved in scuffles and niggles and all that sort of stuff this year, and I don't know if that's a conscious thing or if he's like, well, I'm the halfback now, so I have to have a little bit more maturity about me. But I do think there's a change there. And I really think he's gone to next level as a player. Brisbane fought hard in this game, but they've got to start winning soon, man. Like, fighting hard's not really enough for them anymore.
We've gone from, they'll be fine to, will they be fine?
I'm not sure.
And now I think this is literally the first time this year where we have to have this discussion. So I'll just ask you, are they going to make the finals?
Yes, I think they still will, but that might just be because I'm sort of besotted with how good they can be rather than what they are. You know, they need Reynolds back ASAP, as soon as possible, playing with one arm if you have to, right? Because everything else just isn't working right now.
Well, They're 11th.
Yeah, Corey. I don't think Corey Oates can play first grade anymore.
But the scuttlebutt is that he's going to be preferred to Dean Mariner.
Well, that would be
that seems to me that's
that would be
Queensland not picking Dave
absolute. Yeah, that would be
levels in.
absolutely baffling to me.
Yeah.
Like Oates,
Mariner's got an error in him, but he just offers you so much more in
Well, there was like 3 times in this game where Oates had a shot at the line and he should have scored.
Yeah.
And he just couldn't do it because he's not fast enough anymore.
Yeah.
And if you're a team like Brisbane where points are a bit hard to come by right now and you need to take the chances where you can find them, you cannot afford to keep blowing them like that.
No, you can't.
You know? So if they kept Oates and dropped Mariner, I know it's only a winger, but that'd be enough for me to put the lines through him.
There you go.
It really would.
So their next 3 games, they still won't have Adam Reynolds for any of these games, if I'm not mistaken. And so I guess the good part of it is they play 10th, 9th and 5th. So they play 3 teams, the Dragons, Knights and Bulldogs, who are all kind of in that cluster with them. The good thing is you win those games, you're fine, you're back in it. But the bad thing is if you lose 2 of those 3, suddenly it's almost beyond you at that point. And then after that, it's 2 away games in the 4X derby. And we know there's no love lost there. So it's actually going to be
It's a tricky run.
The next 5 weeks is going to be season defining for
Yeah.
Brisbane. They've got 3 games against teams right around them on the ladder, and then 2 games against teams that love nothing more than beating them, both on the road. So it's tough, man. It's really tough, and obviously, you know, they won't have Walsh this weekend. Dragons will be everyone except Hunt and Lomax. But Dragons played really well against Penrith the last time they didn't have any Origin players, and Brisbane will be missing Haas, Carrigan, Walsh, Cobbo, other guys. Is that it? Is there more?
It's a lot for them to overcome, given they were already trying. Like they had all those guys on the weekend, and they still weren't.
They just have no
able to-
players left.
Yeah,
Like we touched on this last. I was looking at the bench that they had for this game. It was like 2, like a hooker and outside back, Marty Tapau, who's 37, 36. He's around.
It's not 36.
I think it's that. And one guy that would probably be in their first choice 17 in Xavier Willison, and that's it. So their depth is really being tested. Now they're going to have an Origin game.
Do you think they're gone? Sounds like you think they're gone.
Give me 1 more week.
1 more week,
Yeah.
and then you put the line through them.
I think if they lose this week, I think it might be over. Just because they got to go up to Newcastle after that. The Knights will be fired up. They'll be sniffing around for finals, and they'll have, they'll be buoyed by, got Bradman Best will be coming back from Origin. Callum Ponga sort of finding his feet again, and then that somehow that 3 o'clock game against the Bulldogs in a couple of weeks' time at Suncorp could be gigantic. Could be. So worrying times, I think. Yeah, Penrith are really good. They might just win the comp again.
So, like Nathan Cleary has been out for I think 10 years now.
Doesn't matter.
And it just doesn't matter. They just keep going.
Yeah.
Like we've talked a lot about that breakaway pack or that sort of massive teams in the middle of the competition trying to fight their way into I think 4 or 5 spots in the top 8. But I think it's pretty clear that the premiership winner is going to come from the top 3, right? From the Storm, the Roosters, and the Panthers are just so far ahead of everyone else. And while the Roosters look pretty fully formed right now, I think the Storm still have a level to go to, and I think the Panthers do as well. They're going to get Nathan Cleary back in a couple of weeks, and they're already pretty much better than everybody else.
Yep.
So,
what a luxury,
mate! It's nearly half a decade of this stuff now.
we've just become.
We're just running out of things to say about them.
What can you say? Speaking of those Bulldogs, 13-12 win over the Warriors.
This game rocked.
An insane end.
This game was awesome.
Unhinged stuff at the end. Marcel was having the game of his life against his old team, just flying around, hitting people, scoring tries. He was great. The Bulldogs just ate up sort of so much pressure early on. Then they throw that massive counter punch with the Bronson Cherry try off the Birdo intercept. And then this game lost its damn mind.
It was absolutely insane. It was funny because I felt like all through that first half, New Zealand were winning the physical battle, right? They were playing really, really hard, both sides of the ball, really throwing themselves around, and the Dogs were sort of struggling to deal with it a little bit because the Dogs can sort of struggle against a big physical athletic side. But then when the Dogs were getting their attacking chances, they were looking good, and it was only some like truly heroic one-on-one plays that stopped them from scoring. There was Nickel Klukstad's tackle on Josh Curran when he looked like he was going to score. There was I think it was Adam Pompey knocking down a pass from Connor Tracy when they looked certain to score as well. So the Dogs had done the Warriors had done really, really well to play to their strengths in that way, but then everyone started getting injured.
They finished with none of their back 3.
Yeah, that's like covering one in your back 3 can be really, really difficult, as we've seen plenty of times this year. Losing all 3 is totally insane. They had Kurt Capewell on the wing for.
Yeah, they had Pompey on one wing, Kurt Capewell on the other, and Roger at fullback, which I guess is a pretty good cover. But yeah, it was crazy that this team was being held together by Band-Aids by the end, and they still nearly won it.
Well, I still think they should have won it because I thought that Jamin Salmon challenge on Tamari Martin, in the moment, I thought it was a penalty.
Yep, we watched it back and thought...
thought it was a penalty.
This is the reverse of last week.
Yeah, and then he gets charged and he's going to miss 2 or 3 games. He's going to miss way more because he's broken his jaw. But... yeah, if I was a Warriors fan, I would feel very, very aggrieved by that because it wasn't as if in the moment we were like, oh, nah, that's fine. That's just how it goes.
As soon as it happened, we were like, oh, he got him.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure they looked at it again and they just let it happen.
We didn't have sound at the pub. We thought for sure they were going to just send it upstairs and give a penalty and the game was going to be over.
I thought it was a slam dunk. I thought it was a slam dunk for sure.
Crazy. And then Reid Marnie has an awesome charge down.
Yeah, he does. Oh, man, that part of the reason I loved this game was that like the last sort of 10 minutes regular time and then all of extra time, there was like 5 plays like the Reid Marnie charge down that were just all over the place. Down the left
and then spill the ball.
Yeah, the dogs are making breaks. There's that kid who was on debut for the Warriors, Leha Halasima.
So close.
He really looks like he's got something. He's still really young. He's just 18. He made his State Cup debut last year at 17. The Warriors are very keen on him. I thought he was going to score when he busted into space there, and I was like, that's unbelievable. That'd be one of the moments of the season if he ends up getting over. But Sherry has the great try saver on him. Both teams are having shots at field goal. I feel like Burton hit the post, mate, like 5 or 6 times.
Even the one that went in hit the post. So.
Even the one that went in. Martin and Harris DeVito both had a couple of shots that looked all right too. And
when I watched the game back again with sound, by the way, once again, I can't remember who the co-com was, but they did the he's got it again for one of the Warriors ones that didn't go in. I love this. Every week I want this from now on. I want the colour commentator to just scream he's got it as soon as they kick it. Just back yourself, mate.
So the Warriors halves probably didn't have their best day. They had 10 errors combined. They had 5 each, which is a lot. And it's, I guess given all the injuries they did have, they probably needed to get a bit more leadership from those two, especially if this stuff about the Warriors being better without Sean Johnson is going to be for real. They need those two to be a little bit more efficient. And you can say that like the Bulldogs took a long time to get there against a team that was pretty busted, but they got there. You know what I mean? It's all right to play with your food as long as you end up eating it. And they did, and they won again. And now they're a win outside the top 4. Burton's got the juice right now. You know what I mean? Even if he's not setting up 5 tries a week, he's making big plays every week.
I know it came back because Kurt Mann was offside, but that bomb he put up right at the end of regulation.
Why doesn't he do it all the time?
Oh, just every set. No one can catch him.
Yeah, I know. And like, even if he's not making heaps of plays, every play he's making feels like a big one. So there's the field goal, there's some of the clearing kicks. There was the intercept for the Sherry try, where if he misses that, the Warrior score. It's like it's a genuine 12-point swing, you know. And I really think we're seeing him emerge as one of the top players in the competition. You know, this stuff that he's doing at 5'8" now. That's why you persist with him. That's why you don't move him to the centres. You know, you have to cop the errors, cop the teething problems, because this is what it gets you at the end. You know, and he really looks like he's hitting the next level, and the Dogs keep winning, and there does seem to be a real vibe around them at the minute, like to your chagrin. But all the Dogs fans are coming out of hiding. You know, they've been away for a long time. This is a team that's really struggled for years now. They're in their, I've said it plenty of times now, they're in their longest finals drought since the late 1950s. And now there's something to celebrate. There's something to get behind.
Seems like it's going to be hard for them to miss the finals.
Well, I think they're going to make the finals, and I think now they should be looking towards the top 4. I don't know if they'll get there, but that's what they should be aiming for, definitely.
Aim high.
You can sort of adjust your target a little bit based on how well they've been doing.
Their effort plays are just so good.
Yeah.
They're just a team that's playing for each other.
Yeah. The Warriors, this is a heartbreaker. This is the sort of one that can topple your season.
This is a win where if you get this, you look back on this as like a really famous victory.
Yeah.
Backs against the wall, no bench players left at the end, no outside backs on the field to end the game. And you get so close. Could have won it with the penalty that wasn't given. Could have won it with a couple of field goals, especially the one that Marnie charged into, which I think was definitely on target before it hit Marnie's head, right? And it just gets away from you at the end.
They had their chances too. Like there was that play the ball that Reid Marnie is just looking off with the fairies that Freddie Lussick dives on.
Yeah.
You know, so they had chances to set it up and knock it over. And like they played with a lot of spirit, definitely. And it was, I think that was That's been really important these last few weeks to try and get the centre that 60-point loss to the Titans off them. But now I think they're 2.5 wins back from the top 8, and who knows when they're going to get anything close to their best team on the field again this year. So they might have just left all this too late, And I think they'll be a little bit like the Broncos, where they'll look at this as a bit of a lost season if they don't end up making the finals. I'm not saying they have the same ceiling as the Broncos, but I just feel like there's been a lot of games like this where they just haven't been able to close it out and get it done.
There's another world where they're on 10 wins or something, and they're doing fine. They just had a few of these bad losses. Well, I wouldn't say this is bad, but like close losses that could have easily been wins.
That's it. Yeah, they're struggling to turn a narrow deficit into a narrow win run out. That's what they did so well last season. Remember, we were talking a lot about how, wow, they don't look great, but they keep winning, they keep winning. Then all of a sudden they were in the top 4. Yeah. And it's kind of all those games they won last year, they've kind of just lost them this year. And losing games is worse than winning them.
That's true.
That's analysis, brother.
And nobody knows that more than the West Tigers. 28-40 at Leichhardt Oval. They started okay. The Storm got back into it really well, and I thought that Fatape sin-bin was an absolute backbreaker.
Oh, yeah, it really was. The Tigers, again, yeah, you're right, they started well. I liked that they were throwing a lot of shape at the Storm, but they just found it so hard to defend errors all the time. Like one error, if the Storm got one chance down at the Tigers' line, it felt like they were in with a chance of scoring, And part of that is the Tigers just maybe not making some great decisions or some in defensively. Some of it was lineup stuff. Like, I really don't know what they're looking for with Fatape on the wing. I think he's been solid enough in the centres this year, but on the wing he looks a little bit all at sea. And the Storm were clearly targeting him as well. Especially aerially, because Fatape is not the biggest dude in the world. Warbrick's a big guy who can really jump, so the Storm were really onto that one. And then other times it was just the Storm. Just the amount of strike that they have, and especially through Jerome Hughes, who I keep talking about every week, but I'm only doing it because he's the best player in the world right now.
He was awesome.
And he was fantastic. And we were both at this game.
And you said he's the MVP.
He really is. And it wasn't just him running the ball well, although he did all that really well. It wasn't just him throwing nice passes. He did that as well. It was just the way that the time that he's playing with, the way he's able to hold up the ball right at the defensive line, digging deep into it, setting stuff up for his outside men, and making it look so easy. There's another world where this Storm team totally falls apart. Pappenhausen's still finding his way back from injury, right? He was pretty good in this one, but he's still getting there. Grant isn't playing right now, and when he hasn't been great. Munster hasn't played for what feels like years.
It's magic round, right? Yeah.
And a lot of the time during games, they're having guys go down as well. Like Bronson Garlick went down in this one, so they're down to a third string hooker. He's halves like. Hughes' halves partner for a lot of this game was Grant Anderson. And it just doesn't matter. Like, Hughes is just putting the team on his back all the time. And everyone's like, guys are out there doing their job and being where they have to be. But Hughes is the one that's carrying them. Like, he is just playing out of his mind at the minute.
Yeah, he's playing absolutely awesome. I think Adam Dewey's looked really good since he came back. Like, just the way he moves and stuff. Like, I'm surprised with how sort of spry he looks.
Yeah, me too. He looks faster somehow. I don't know how.
He's had 9 knee reconstructions.
I don't know how that's possible. Defensively, he's still struggling a little bit sometimes with his decision making, but that's going to happen regardless. With the ball, he's looking pretty good. And while it's a funny thing to say about a team that concedes 40 points, but if I was a Tigers fan, I wouldn't actually be that mad with this game, because I think some of the issues that they had are pretty simple to fix, and the bright spots are stuff like the way Fanua Bole played. Like, he had another great game. Thought Jareem Buller had one of his best games of the season as well. I liked that he was getting a lot more involved in the attack, So we kind of said in the lead up to this one, all the Tigers can ask for the rest of this season is getting more minutes into some of the youngsters and don't get embarrassed against the good sides.
And they got a couple of late tries here to make the scoreline a bit more powerful.
Yeah, that's it. And with about 15 to go, I think they were down 16 and they were on the attack and it felt like they could do something.
Yeah.
And then Adam Dewey
yelled decline the kick sarcastically.
Yeah. And then Adam Dewey made a mistake and that kind of took the air out of him. But if you're a Tigers fan, I don't think you can be too upset with this one. And if you're a Storm fan, I think it's kind of just like they're just in a holding pattern until everyone gets back. But Hughes is good enough to just carry them through that. And so is Tyron Wishart, who is also just playing unbelievable footy at the minute.
They've just got so many dudes that are just flying.
Well, Wishart's a funny one because I think he's pretty clearly a dummy half, right? And I think when Grant comes back into the team and everyone's fit, I think they'll end up starting Wishart and have Grant come off the bench. so Grant can play 60 straight. But Wishart's just done so many different things for them this year at hooker and in the halves and at lock, and I think he's played in the outside backs a couple of times as well. And he just keeps finding ways to impact games. You know, like he's not I wouldn't say he's a classical half option or a fashionable player or anything like that. But he just seems to always back up well. He runs the ball well. Him and Hughes just seem to understand each other. Yeah, I've been so impressed with him.
Had that line break in the first half out of nothing. Just created something too. So, yeah, the Storm just keep winning. They're first by a couple of wins. Still, they're looking fine. They're looking pretty good. They're going to get guys back. I still, I'm not sure. We're just not going to know till we see them against one of the heavyweights in a big game in September. But right now, they're just brushing everyone aside.
They're meant to play the Roosters in 2 weeks' time. So, again, the schedule is, I don't know what you're doing scheduling a Roosters Storm game for after Origin 3. So who knows who's going to back up from both sides. But I think that'll tell us a lot about both of them. It's down in Melbourne, so they'll get the advantage there.
Yep.
But yeah, I think we'll get a really good read on them then. But I got to tell you, man, the way Hughes is playing, even though like they're just kind of beating all the bad teams right now, I'm still pretty convinced.
He's playing great. No, he's awesome. Just one more thing before we move on. So, friend of the show, Pies Josh, he follows our Front Row Friday picks every week.
Oh, Josh, I'm so sorry.
But he missed the jump seeing the video before the 6 p.m. game, so he didn't get on Tom Hazelton. So he made his own pick of Fanua Bole. So you're now coming third in a two-person race.
It's Fanua. I can't believe he did it picking Fanua Bole as well. Fanua's my favourite. That's my guy.
Well, this was a weekend where Bole and Josh Papali'i scored, and somehow you didn't have either. I know. Devastating.
Ah, man. I'm the Nico Hines of Front Row Friday right now. when you're on tilt, you're on
picking
tilt.
Sharks players. I mean, what's going on with Nick Cantor?
Deal with the devil, man.
Indeed. All right, and another unhinged field goal-a-thon up in Townsville. Cowboys 20, Seagulls 21. Before we get into the game, I do want to highlight the fact that this was a tweet that was doing the rounds after the game with some guy that last week, after Nico Hines' mishaps, was like, even Chad Townsend would have kicked one by now, and that got a fair bit of retweeting traffic after this one, as poor old Chad and Val combined for I think 73 missed field goal attempts.
Scott Drinkwater kicked a field goal from half. What's that mountain in Townsville? What's it called again?
I don't know.
There's a mountain near Townsville.
Okay.
Drinkwater was halfway up it, and he kicked the field goal. And then didn't get another shot.
That was the weirdest part.
What he's doing?
He hit that
Get out of the way and give it to Scott.
Maybe his powers are only useful from beyond 40, and the others.
Even so,
they play 2 passes back. Throw a 20-metre ball back and let him kick it from behind the 40.
You would think, because not only can Scott Water kick a field goal, if they rush up on him and the defensive line's staggered, he can step 3 blokes and score. He did it against the Panthers in Golden Point last year.
I remember that.
You would think he would be the guy that you'd be a bit wary about rushing up on because you know he can take you on like that. But yeah, this was, if I was a Cowboys fan, I would hate this team so much. You know, because again, they have all the talent, they have all the advantages. They had so many chances to win this game with Val, who has been a great field goal kicker in the past, and Townsend, who's been pretty good at it, and they just kept blowing it time and time again.
I know Chad scored a try, but 3 minutes before that, when he just drops the ball over the line.
He had a tough game.
He had a tough game. Chad.
But yeah, the Cows had so many chances to close this one out, and for all their talent and all their ability, they weren't able to do it. And then you contrast that with Manly. I think Cherry Evans did miss one easy one.
But that's the thing. Cherry Evans missing a field goal attempt is rare in itself.
Exactly.
And so
I was shocked when he missed it.
They need to take full advantage, and they just didn't.
Yeah, and that kind of sums it up for me. Manly, maybe weren't at their best, but they were at their most opportunistic. You know, they were able to strike. They were able to take their chances. And there was stuff like the third Jason Saab try, where the Cowboys are on the attack, ball hits the ground, Jake Trbojevic picks it up, finds Kohler, and he links with Saab way downfield and ends up scoring. That's not really a chance, but Manly were able to strike, to take it, because they've got so much speed and so much strike, and they're so willing to use it. You know, they just seemed really sure of what they wanted to do and how they wanted to strike. Kohler was good.
Hands for the first sub try as well.
Yeah, injected himself into the attack nicely. So. Yeah, but
he's injured now, I think I read this morning he's out for a few weeks.
Is he? They've got Lehigh Hopewadi.
I think I saw Physio tweet that this morning, something about Kohler. So.
But yeah, just an enormously frustrating loss in what must be such a frustrating existence for the Cows.
Ruled out for a month with an MCL injury. So tough beat because he played really well.
Yeah, he was nice.
Yeah. The Cowboys are so frustrating. You're right, mate. there's just so much talent there. And in a game like this, the way it was presented to you, where as I said, you get a cherry and miss, you get the chance to ice this game. Was it 4 different times?
A lot of times.
And you got to take one.
Well, there's the 2 really bad misses. Chad's got one from about 15 metres out that he just sprays.
Yeah.
And then Val has one. They do a 2-pass shift, and it's a bigger kick. It's like out near 30.
It went so far wide.
But like, as soon as he kicks it, his head's down. And like
we've seen
him bury him from nearly halfway.
He's been so good at this.
And he had so much time, and it just all sort of fell apart on him.
I don't know. Maybe the Cowboys heard your top 4 call last week, and they just can't handle the pressure. Maybe that's it. What the comms were blowing up about what would have been the 4th try for Saab. The Garrick no try with the air contest with Saab. And I thought it was a very clear penalty.
I am struggling to pick up what's a penalty and what's not anymore. I feel like the indicators that the NRL puts out there are not always applied consistently. And more when things go to the bunker like that, I am starting to think it's a bit of a coin flip.
Fair enough.
And this didn't happen so much in this game, but it's happened a lot in other games. I think the obsession with making decisions quickly is really, really bad, and I think it's really affecting the product. Because I know people complain about the bunker taking too long. People are going to complain either way. I think for the transparency of the process, you can't just look at one replay, or you can't start looking at replays before the fans see them. You know what I mean? You've got, go through the process. Talk to me about it. Don't just look at it once and then move on to the next thing.
I don't think our attention spans are so bad that we can't handle an extra 30 seconds.
I've never heard of anyone turning off a game because a video ref decision took too long.
No.
You know? So just take your time. Who are you pleasing with this?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, the Xavier Savage one springs to mind in a game that we'll get to in a minute. But,
now I'm sad.
Sorry. Well, we do have to talk about that game in a minute, so it's important to brace yourself. But Manly, look, they're hanging around. They've navigated a tricky part of the year. No Tom for ages. They had their team absolutely pulled apart by injuries and suspensions a couple of weeks ago. It really reached its, I think, nadir with that South game a couple of weeks ago. But they'll hopefully turn things around. They get Tom back, who was okay, I thought. He looked fine.
Oh, he was kind of quiet.
Yeah,
I thought.
Well, but
who cares? They won.
Exactly right.
That's more important. And you're right. They do keep hanging around. They're still in that pack. They've had plenty of games and plenty of times this year where it would have been easy for them to fall apart and drop back a little bit. But every time they've really been put to the test like that, they've been able to stand up and keep going.
So that's suddenly a really big game against Newcastle Brookvale this Sunday, and they'll have Hamoli because he's not playing Origin. So that things breaking pretty well for them right now after a few weeks of bad luck. So nice for their fans to get a break. And the team, we haven't called them team of the pod in weeks, have we?
Yeah, no, we haven't.
we really
kind of went away from it.
Are we back on?
If they make the finals, then we really lean into it.
Okay,
if not, we'll just pretend it didn't happen.
Yep, perfect. Nailed it.
It's called playing both sides, so we always
right.
come out on top.
Okay, Roosters 42, Dragons 12. Did you see the promo video the Roosters were doing for this game last week where Luke Keary's joke was like, come down to Jared's record-breaking game and watch him get sent off?
No, that's awesome.
Which was great. Luke Keary's very funny. I loved it, but then he got sin-binned.
Yeah, but I kind of loved it though.
It was perfect.
Yeah, it's like this is how he's lived this whole time. He's always played hard. He's always played right on the edge of the rules. Sometimes he goes over the line. Why should his record-breaking game be any different? You know, I thought we got the full Jared Warrior-Hargreaves experience. He was playing great footy until he got sin-binned. He got sin-binned for going a bit too far. Came back on, was still playing great. Had that big cut on his head and had the blood sort of pouring down his face and was loving it. It was pretty much licking it off his own face and getting the big ovation from the crowd when he came off again. I thought it was just this game sort of, if you could pick one game to sum up his whole career, you could pick this one, you know? So what could be more fitting in a milestone game than that?
Gold number, yay or nay?
I liked that the Roosters were trying to make it feel special.
I agree with that.
Didn't think it looked great, but I understand what they were trying to do. So points for trying.
Yep, I totally agree. Yeah, they're really good.
Yeah, they're kind of awesome right now. And it's just little things. So that stuff, that little grubber that Sam Walker's doing where he steps in and kicks out.
He tries this with both feet.
Yeah, I know. He's really good right now, dude. And that I think with Sam, and I've been guilty with this with Sam Walker because he can do tricky things like that. Every time he has a couple of good games, I'm like, Sam Walker's here, it's finally happening. but I do think it is finally happening now. Like, we're coming up on like 6 weeks of like really, really good footy from him, playing different conditions really well, adjusting the way he's playing based on the context of each match. I really think he's starting to put it all together, put all of his prodigious talent and his abilities together. So there's just little things like that. Or there was, for the Dom Young try, right? They've had Victor Radley on an edge now for several weeks, and he's been doing really well there. But they sort of had it, they were running a second man play off him that was already, I think, 2 or 3 passes wide of the ruck, right? So it was a standard play, but it was just used in a different and effective way, and in a way that the defence wouldn't see very often, you know? So they're really using the full breadth of their talents. And the Dragons, I thought, did well to hold the gloves up and get back into the game at 14-12. And they'd worked really hard to do so. But then the Roosters just found another gear and just kicked on again and just really looked a class above.
I know he knocked himself out, but I thought that was an 8-point try.
What, from Radley?
Yeah.
How?
That he flew across with no arms at all and just hit the guy in the head.
No, dude, his head hits Tui Pelotu's shoulder.
No, I thought there was head contact first.
I didn't think so.
It was weird. I thought like they might have looked at that close if he hadn't knocked himself out. Maybe that's a good ploy. Anyway, I hope he's okay. But yeah, that was a nasty one for him. Very unlucky. But it doesn't really matter because even if they'd got it back to 14-all, I don't think.
The Roosters just found another gear. They just turned it up again. They didn't panic. They were like, all right, well, we're going to really turn up the intensity. We're going to attack through the middle even more. We're going to bring Spencer Leniu on and have just the kick-off returns from hell. And it ended up working. You know, there was the Crichton try, then there was the Tedesco try where he picks up the loose ball and just runs 60 and scores, and then all of a sudden, the Roosters are right on top and just loving life again. You know, so
can't wait to passionately cheer for the Penrith Panthers in the grand final. They're playing the Roosters.
Well, I think I'm glad you bring up the Panthers because I think part of what has changed for the Roosters is in the past they've always had a lot of flash about them, but if you really put it on them physically, there was always a chance that you could get over the top of them, right? But I think what's happened in these last few weeks is the Roosters have started to really find the joy in the struggle, like Penrith do. You know, I think they're enjoying the physical process. I think they're enjoying the tough stuff a lot more. There was a bit in the first half where I think the Dragons had 3 or 4 sets on the Roosters line, and the Roosters ended up turning them away, and they were all celebrating like they'd scored a try. You know what I mean? I think they're enjoying the process of winning.
Well, that was their MO when they were winning comps.
Exactly. And that's what Penrith do so well. And I think that's what the Roosters are starting to find again, you know? And there's just a lot of guys playing really well. I think Brandon Smith's been really good since he came back into the team. I already talked a little bit about Walker. I think Lenu's been playing great footy as well. Like, those kickoff returns were just fantastic. And the way that it was sort of bringing the crowd into the game as well, like to the point where I think he sort of walked back and he was kind of strutting a little bit and he was trying to pump him up. And then the Dragons kick it down and the Roosters pass it away and you hear the whole crowd go, oh.
Who are our preeminent kickoff return guys ever?
I think Lenu's right up there, man.
The two that came to mind for were Paliasina.
Yeah.
And remember Hutch Mayava?
Yes.
He was great at it.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, that's a good big 3.
Yeah. Because, Lenu's getting right up there.
100%. Well, he's just, and like I thought Collins was really good in this one as well.
Awesome.
I don't think he's had a great season, but he really sort of turned it up for this one.
He almost got the prestigious award for this week, but I gave it to...
If it was up to me, I would have given it to him.
I gave it to someone else to make you feel better.
Yeah, well, it didn't work, but thanks for that. But yeah, this kind of just showed the gap in class between the Roosters and the Dragons. I still think the Dragons can maybe scrap their way into the bottom half of the 8, but the Roosters are a team that, you know, should be aiming as high as a team can aim right now.
They could finish first still.
Wow.
They played the Storm in 2 weeks, as you said. So that'll be a big 4-pointer at the top of the table. Anyway, last game of the round, Canberra 12, Newcastle 16. The Knights, on another day, I thought could have won this game by 1 million, but they did their best to throw it over on Canberra, just couldn't capitalise. They were so close at the end. So close.
This one really hurt.
This
one really hurt, because I think you're right. I thought the Raiders started... The first 10 minutes were quite strong with Papali'i scoring, but after that they were just playing so slow with everything they were doing. Their line speed was really poor, their kick chase was really poor, and the Knights were able to take advantage of it. But for all that, the Raiders managed to stay in the game and they managed to hang around. They should have led at half time because Strange should have iced that chance when he had the line break. And
pass the ball, Ethan.
I thought Ponga played it really well. But also just score, man. Just find a way to get over the line that you have to, because chances are hard to come by for Canberra right now, so they have to take them when they come, And then, even though Canberra, again, it felt like they were on the ropes for the first 20 minutes of the second half. But then there's the Kyo Weeks try off the Whitehead intercept, and then the Knights were just dropping the ball all the time, and it was like they couldn't have given Canberra any more chances to win if they tried.
They really couldn't.
And Canberra had so much, had enough ball and enough good field position to win the game. And I really, really felt like they were going to do it, and it was going to be one of those ones where I was going to come away from it and go, well, we got away with one there, but it was so important just to get some confidence back, and it just didn't end up happening. I was gutted after this one, absolutely gutted.
I thought that Kalen Ponga's reaction at full time when they showed him was telling, that he was like shaking his head and laughing and just going, like, how did we get away with that?
Yep.
And which is crazy to say in a game where, again, they were so dominant for the first 50 or so minutes of this game that I thought they should have been out of sight. And Harry texted me and said if Pierce Paul scores that try, then the Knights going to win by 30.
Yep.
But they just didn't, and they blew so many opportunities. And then it just comes to Xavier Savage right at the end, and he just can't put the ball down.
Should have scored.
Yeah.
No, it's a tough chance, but that's why you're in the big league, son. And what was not upsetting, but what kind of killed me about that was, like, one, he should have scored, just dive on the ball. But two, if you don't think you can score, the worst thing you can do is just fly in there and throw your hands at the ball because you're going to knock it on. And I love that Savage chases kicks hard, and I love that he goes after it like that. But that is a bad habit that he's gotten into, And it was similar a couple of sets before that where they put up a bomb, Ponga drops it, Sungi gets it, and he's just held up. He's just held up really close to scoring. Then they go back and check it, and Savage has done the same thing. He's jumped up to catch the ball, and he's not really near it, but he's just thrown a hand out, and it's ended up knocking it on. And you've just got to be smarter than that. You've got to be out. You've got to take your chances better than that, and that's kind of what lost Canberra this game. They had the chances to win, and they just couldn't ice them. And it wasn't as if it was like, it wasn't as if it was halves play letting them down or anything like that. It was just the execution, those final moments. It just has to be better. It has to be better.
Where do you go from here?
I don't know,
because it just seems like at the moment and for a few weeks now, the Raiders are just carrying a few guys that aren't offering them a whole lot.
Well,
and it's
frustrating thing. Yeah. Frustrating thing is I think there are some really easy fixes that can be made. Morgan Smithies can't be in this team. Mm-hmm. He just can't do it. He's not fast enough at anything to keep playing at NRL level. Works really hard. I don't doubt that, but I think the game is too quick for him right now. And I think maybe with another preseason things can be different. But the middle of the field was getting absolutely busted up when he was out there, and he's meant to be the strong defensive presence. There was blokes like Matt Croker and Brodie Jones just absolutely dominating, And I like that Smithies is passing the ball more. I think that's a better use of him, but he just doesn't have the rhythm or the timing for it yet either. And he just makes a lot of mistakes as well. Like just after half time, right? Canberra's first set, he throws a forward pass. On the fourth tackle of the next set, he gives away a 6 again, and then the Knights end up scoring, and then that try ends up being the difference. Yeah. And it was like a really well-constructed try. They had Gagai swinging around to the other side of the field. Gagai was really good in this game.
But
it was like, you can't give them chances like that. So, Smithies, I just don't know what he's supposed to be doing there. And they've got Hohepa Puru in reserve grade, who is good at all those things. He does lead the line defensively. He does pass the ball really well. He's averaging 150 metres a game in Reggie's. He's the captain of reserve grade, so they clearly have a rap.
The Raiders must lead the league in guys their fans want in first grade who aren't in first.
So he's killing me. And then Emre Guler had some really poor touches off the bench as well. But even so, even for all of that, they still should have won this game. And they'll get Fogarty and Hosking back, and that'll really help and all that. But it's just this is just a real backbreaker. Now I think they're 2 wins back from 8th spot. It's going to be a really hard thing for them to catch up on, and there's just a lot of bad habits that have been developed. I think in the last 4 games they've scored 1 try in the first half, and it was this Papali'i one. Over the last 2 games, they have a barge over try and then 2 long range efforts from Kyo Weeks. Not from good play, just from turnover ball, so they're not creating anything.
No.
And again, Fogarty will help with that, but it just really feels like Canberra have kind of let things slip over this 4-game losing streak. And it's just really, really disappointing because I felt like a lot of it was really preventable. And I feel like there's a couple of tweaks that can be made to this team that would make them a lot better, and they're just not happening. And it's killing me, Bert.
I'm sorry, mate. You are hurting in there. At least we gave Papali the ball. That's all that matters.
I guess.
One bit of news before we get out of here. We'll talk more about Latrell Mitchell on the Thursday preview show with the Souths preview, just because we're running out of time, and that will probably take a while. But Jason Riles, Parramatta coach.
Yes, so Riles is kind of the next cab off the rank. He's been a very highly touted assistant for a good few years now, and there have been a couple of clubs that have wanted him. I know the Dragons really wanted him when they ended up going with, before they ended up going with Shane Flanagan this year. He's been linked to that Melbourne job, I think 3 or 4 times already, when Craig Bellamy's done his whole, I'm going to retire. Oh, wait, no, I'm not. So there was a bit of talk that he was waiting around for that. But he very much is sort of, you know how Cam Serraldo was really highly touted and Craig Fitzgibbon was a bit the same? Riles is sort of the next man in that mould. Like the talk around the traps has been that he's
for ages
that he's a first grade coach in the waiting. So I think this is a good get for Parra because he's, you know, you never know until a guy coaches the team. But in terms of other resumes, he's pretty much the best guy available.
4 years. That looks like they're going to give him a bit of time to see if things work. I did laugh. One of our listeners joked this morning that after he finishes his 4-year deal, Bellamy will only have 1 year left at the Storm, so he can slot straight back in there. But I'm excited to see what happens, just purely because, as you said, he's just been the name that's been thrown around. So like him and Josh Hannay, who I thought was in the box seat for this job, but they've gone with Riles instead, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what this Parra team is like with a new approach. Because I've said many times that I think Brad Arthur's very good and a very capable coach, but he just had been around for a long time. So new look, new voice, maybe that can change things for him.
Yeah. All right. Before we get out of here, give a quick thank you to the people in the top 2 tiers on our Patreon subscription service. If you'd like to support us, go to patreon.com/NRL Rookies. You get an extra show every week, access to our Discord server, merch discounts. We now have actual merch, and plenty more. So, thank you to a perverted female listener. So, Chris Abnell, Dave, Stu, the Slater Cobbo Disconnect. We're Queenslanders. A bloke hurting in the shed, a sad and cold Raiders fan, Adam Small, Billy Slater, Bruce the Pie Eating Pond, Butsy, Chivax Snuffleupagus, Dan Cullinane, David, an anonymous backer, Ed Burton, Glenn McGrath's impeccable line and length. I miss Adam Reynolds. I'm shipping up to Gosford, dropkick coasties. Joel Wrigley, John, Josh Brandon, Gerbo's invaluable leadership, kicks outside of the comp, Lachlan Hancock, Mads, Taylor's version, Matthew Duggan, Morgan Watkins, my ding ding dong is hard and I'm sad, never trendy. New metal, clearly the better art form. Official historian of the Jerome Hughes Empire and the House of Pappen. Pasami Army, Patreon need a bigger character limit for funny names. Paul Mac 78, push it up. Manly, Reece Brown 78, Rowan Edwards, Roxanne Clark, C and Vegas Shunter. Sitting around cutting off patron names is the finest thing a person can do. In fact, it's literally my Ty, Talis Duncan's headgear, TB probably misses his old glasses, the Black Vegetable, the Brisbane Sniper. The Cowboys top 4 tour starts next week. The Nightmare Before Christmas on Caxton Street. The North Papua Cayman Island Ramjet Bears, the Sharks are on a 2024 Poseidon adventure, Thor, and Westlife Podcast, South for Cowards in 1909. Some say they still are. Thank you so much for your support. To everyone in the lower tiers and to everyone who just listens, thank you as well.
The grunt, man. Every time.
Did you see Nathan Ross? Friend of the show, former guest.
Yes, I did.
And he looked jacked.
Yeah, he looked good. Does he have a gimmick or is he just the Ross dog?
Well, he came out literally in a Knights jersey and night shorts. Then he speared someone. And it ruled.
Well, I feel like he could be like a Hardy Boys style high flyer. I
hope so.
You know? Get him jumping off a ladder onto somebody.
I messaged Grayson and said, you're no longer the best wrestler we've had on the show.
How'd you take it?
Not well, but I said, hey man, at least that means I value you higher than LA Knight. And he said, that's true. Tough week for my boy. They lost the tag titles.
Did they?
Yeah, Friday.
A-Town Down Under.
Yeah, in shambles.
They'll be back.
Yeah. All right, and we'll be back on Thursday. Wednesday if you're a patron. So, yeah, stay tuned. Say goodbye, Camper.
Goodbye, Bertrand.
It's goodbye from me.